Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and today I'm going to be reviewing The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. This is a science fiction classic. It was published in 1969 and then it won the Hugo and Nebula awards for Best Novel for that year. This is one of the books in Le Guin's Hainish cycle, which I don't think there is a recommended reading order for that series. Probably because Le Guin herself doesn't call it an actual series, but if you've never read any of Le Guin's work, or if you've never read any books in the Hainish cycle in that universe, absolutely you can start with The Left Hand of Darkness. In fact, if you haven't read anything by Le Guin before, I recommend you start with The Left Hand of Darkness. It's a classic for a reason. The story takes place on the planet called Winter, or Gethin. Our main character is Ghenly. He is an emissary from the Ecumen, which is a union of planets colonized by the various branches of humanity, and Ghenly's task is to convince the Gethenians that he is actually an alien and they should join the Ecumen. He is trying to convince the King of Karhide, a kingdom on Gethin, of his mission with the aid of the Prime Minister named Estraven. Unfortunately, Ghenly's plan and Estraven's plan fall apart because of politics, but also because their psychologies, their societies, and their ways of communicating are so different. And these differences between Gethenians and humans like Ghenly seem to be rooted in their gender. Gethenians are androgynous. They are neither male nor female, except during periodic phases called Kemer, when they can become male or female. Every Gethenian is both able to and might bear and beget children in the course of their life. There is a long, grueling journey to be had towards Ghenly's goal, but also towards an understanding or at least acknowledgement of how much Gethenians do differ in their gender from Ghenly's concept of human sexuality. This book explores how gender or biological sex can affect the way that people think and the way that culture and society and civilization can work, and even how it influences things like politics, patriotism, and the rate of technological change. This is just fascinating. This theme is amazing, and I am not explaining it very well at all, and I'm sorry about that. One thing to note, especially for younger people like me, is that the terminology used to discuss sexuality in this book is a little bit dated. The biggest omission is any distinction between biological sex and gender. They are different things, but that is not addressed in this book, and for all I know, it might be a distinction that was not made when Le Guin wrote this back in the 60s. In short, I love this book. I love everything about this book. I love the themes. I definitely appreciated the thematic content of this book a lot more than when I was a kid and I read it for the first time. I love this relationship, this friendship that develops between Ghenly and Estraven throughout the course of the book. I think that the journey across the ice is one of the most iconic visual images I have ever read in my life. And to top it all off, the writing is masterful and powerful, but is not overwrought. It's not dense. It just is. I was so amazed after reading Le Guin for the first time in well over a decade that her writing is so simple and straightforward, and yet it conveys complicated, important concepts so well. It just goes straight into me, and I don't want to stop reading it. It means so much to me to read Le Guin's writing. One of my biggest takeaways from this book is from a relatively short passage near the end, which I'm going to talk about at length. Because Ghenly is male, whenever Estraven goes into Kemer, he is kind of hormonally or pheromonally pushed into becoming feminine or female, and this creates an uncomfortable sexual tension between them. They are very physically close during their journey, so they cannot escape this, and it pushes the differences in their sex into the spotlight. And from Ghenly's perspective, you get this passage. For it seemed to me, and I think to him, that it was from that sexual tension between us, admitted now and understood, but not assuaged, that the great and sudden assurance of friendship between us rose. A friendship so much needed by us both in our exile, and already so well proved in the days and nights of our bitter journey, that it might as well be called now as later love. But it was from the difference between us, not from the affinities and the likenesses, but from the difference that that love came, and it was itself the bridge, the only bridge across what divided us. For us to meet sexually would be for us to meet once more as aliens. We had touched in the only way we could touch. We left it at that. I do not know if we were right. So I don't care if I have interpreted this correctly or not, to be honest with you, but what he's saying is that their friendship is formed because of this huge difference in their sexuality and in their gender, and their friendship becomes the bridge over this big chasm in between them. Neither of them understands or completely comprehends what the other is, but that doesn't get in the way of them becoming friends eventually. They cannot meet in one way, so they meet in another. I spent the rest of this book thinking about how people can bond over their differences. I don't want to live in a world where everyone is the same as me. I don't want to live in a world where likenesses are the expectation, the norm, and the status quo that we have to uphold. I want people to be different from me, and I think that when you are saying, that person isn't like me, it makes me uncomfortable, I don't want them to be that way, you are actually saying, I want them to be like me because that is easy. I think you can apply this to any issue of discrimination or prejudice. I think the conversations that we have about what separates us are more controversial, contentious, and uncomfortable, but I think that they teach us more about ourselves and others than just squeeing with somebody about what you already agree about. The Left Hand of Darkness seems to me to be about bridging the differences between yourself and others. The focus in this book is, of course, on gender or sex or sexuality, but I think you can apply the message to many other issues as well. It made me think even more that there is no reason to give up trying to bridge the gap between yourself and others, even when you think it is insurmountable, even when you think you cannot in any way comprehend how the other person thinks and what matters to them, but there is a reward at the end of that journey. For Ghenly and Estraven, the reward at the end of their journey is friendship and love and the achievement of their goal, which will in and of itself have profound consequences. And I think that in the real world, this would hold true as well. The Left Hand of Darkness, people. I love this book. I think everybody should read it. Thank you very much for watching this review, and I will talk to you guys again later. Bye.